flow is this challenging circumstance because the state is subjective. It is a subjective state. So we're trying to take what people report, how people tell us their experiences are unfolding, and correlate that or relate it to something objective.
In the last episode, I had a chance to speak to several of my creative mentors. We had a chance to talk about things like creative flow and also different techniques that people take when they're trying to get their muse back after creative lulls. And it inspired me to get back to my first creative love, which is making and playing music with others and for others. Back in 2012, a few good friends and I started a dad band. Most of us had kids, and we all had full-time jobs. It was time to start jamming and making music together. My good friends Ray, Steve, Jake, and I, and later Nick, started to jam in Jake's basement. The chemistry was instant. Before long, we had enough original songs to start playing shows and recording in the studio. We called ourselves Fox Farm. For 5 years, we played steadily. Then life happened, and the music stopped. After nearly 5 years on hiatus, I was feeling creatively malnourished. I thought that making music again would help me get my creative muse back. I asked the guys if they would consider getting the band back together, and they all agreed. We met for another jam, and it seemed like we had never stopped. Everything clicked. We found flow, and it felt incredible. While filming at McMaster University for another project, I met Luc Klein, a neuroscientist and a flow researcher.
One of the things that the G can tell us is about the brain processes that might be taking place as musicians are performing. And we can look at things like synchrony, because synchrony is a very important component of musical performances.
When Lucas heard about my quest to regain creativity and how my band Fox Farm was rediscovering group flow, he agreed to come to St. John, New Brunswick to conduct a brainwave and motion experiment with us. Lucas, cheers, man.
Greg, thank you so much for having me here. When we start talking about the brain in flow, or in creative states in general, I think it helps to kind of back up and think about the brain in general, and how thinking works, and what the brain is for. You're always in a train of thought, right? The train of thought never really stops. That's the natural state of your mind. So the ability to be engaged in an activity that allows you to turn that off, I think is really valuable, and that's really what I feel flow is all about. We always are thinking about how we look, how are people perceiving me? Am I embarrassed? Do I feel confident? Right? You kind of always have these self-referential processes happening. Again, very adaptive, very important for you to have them in order to interact with the world. But then we can find these little pieces of time, right, where we can kind of tune them down and become free from this constant, how am I doing thought, right? And that's important. I think it's really, it can be therapeutic, and it can be important to look for and creativity inducing.
Lucas's first experiment was to take place in the safety and comfort of our jam space, which is on the second floor of a friend's horse barn. Lucas asked us to create a set list that we would play during the practice session. A few days later, we would play a live show with the exact same set of songs in the same order. In both experiments, Lucas would measure our brainwaves and body motion using EEG and motion technology.
I am interested in the brain processes that enable music performance, and in particular, musical collaboration. Because when we do these activities like music that require skill and practice, but that especially involve interaction with others. Interaction is a complex human behavior, and it requires all these different types of brain processes that might not be required if you are simply playing alone. Well, I am super jazzed that all you guys are here. Thank you so much for coming. This is a super unique opportunity for me and for people like me who do this kind of science. So what I have here are these emotive 32-channel EEG headsets, and you're gonna wear these on your head, And each one of these has 32 of these little electrodes. The electrodes have a little felt tip on the inside. That's going to contact with your scalp, and it's going to be soaked in saline, so you might feel a little bit wetness on your scalp. Your brain is doing all sorts of things all the time, right? It's never not active. But sometimes those processes change depending on what you're doing.
1, 2, 3, 4. With camera operators and sound techs in the room with us and EEG caps on our heads, it was hardly a normal condition for a Fox Farm practice. But it didn't take us long for us to get into the groove and even find a few moments of flow.
Kitty kids, spider legs, arms and legs, you had me pegged. Bring me down, back with love, when all I want to do was fuck. You're the miracle disaster.
The other component of this experiment is a survey, a short survey of 12 questions which you'll rate on a scale from 1 to 7 that asks you about your experience during the previous trial. After each trial, each person got the survey on a clipboard and had the chance to answer the question, how much they agree or disagree with a certain statement on a scale from 1 to 7. And what was really interesting about it, I thought, was the variability across the musicians, but the alignment on certain trials.
Interesting.
Trial meaning the song. So on certain songs, everyone felt like it was good.
Wow.
And everyone agreed that it was good. And everyone was having a similar experience. So the average of all 12 of those questions, it was all very high, because these were all questions where a high score on that question would mean that they were experiencing more group flow. There were some questions where it was all over the place, and definitely I could just look at the plots and say, well, that song wasn't very good, but that song everyone loved. So what I really liked about the survey data is that it was aligned on certain songs. And so it gives me a sense as a scientist that the whole group is experiencing something similar. So, first question, what was your overall impression of the performance? Did anything stand out? Did you like it or dislike it?
Like, this is our practice space, so very comfortable here, but our amps are a little bit, positioned in different places.
Yeah.
There's technicians around, there's, a slight different feeling in the room.
A lot to go through, especially in a short amount of time. I've had a week to learn 20 songs. However, it felt so good to play music with those guys again because it's been so long. They're all great friends of mine, so it just felt good to be in a room with them playing music again.
Yeah. And it's just so different than our normal experience of practicing together too. We're normally tighter together. We manage our own sound. There are a lot more people around, so there's like a level of self-consciousness that kind of came into the performance too.
I think after we felt comfortable after the third or fourth song, it just was what it was. And, to be honest, I don't think it was the strongest.
I found at the beginning of the set we were a little more awkward. I think just getting used to like cameras being around and headsets and all, everything.
Even though it had been years since the band had played together regularly, everything felt good. We know each other well, and we trust each other. And I believe that when we can let go of the fear of what other people are thinking of us, flow states can happen more easily. I also noticed how well we communicated with each other, predicting each other's moves through eye contact and body signals. This form of communication comes from years of playing together. I also noticed during this experiment that clear nonverbal communication helps create the conditions for flow states.
As a bass player, I say focus only on the kick drum. I'm really able to lock in with Greg, and I think that's fulfilling to me. I'm having a really in sync moment with Greg, and it's okay if he doesn't hit the double kick or if he doesn't hit the right thing, because I'm making up for him, and my eyes are tuned into certain drums, sometimes the kick, sometimes the snare, sometimes the kick and snare, and so I'm just playing those instruments with him, but on the bass. And so when that happens, it's really fulfilling, and that's what I'm almost just playing with Greg and those two drums.
How well did you feel that you communicated and coordinated with others?
I think a lot of communication that happens is between Greg and I, when we watch each other. It's easy during rehearsals because we're normally facing one another, and it's always about timing, like when we're coming into certain parts. But I think it's really important too, like when we're doing some of the songs where we just kind of jam and let loose, like we have a lot of communication that way. But I think we've gotten so used to playing with each other now, we can kind of tell like when we're going to transition into other parts of the song. So tonight, I think we were able to achieve that, like some points in time, but other times it was kind of falling apart too.
Yeah.
Fuck, I never know where that one ends. I never know where that one ends.
Not there.
I can't quite hear your guitar, and I couldn't tell what chords you guys.
So this is a depiction of the different constructs that were represented on the survey. So the survey had 12 questions, and a few of those questions were combined into one construct called social cohesion, but the rest of the questions related to other constructs that much of the theory of group flow believes is involved in the experience. So researchers will theorize about a construct, like for instance, automaticity, feeling like your actions are automatic, and then try to generate questions that assess that experience. So one of these is automaticity here. So automaticity, shared goals, coordination, holistic awareness, communication, equal contribution, enjoyment, and social cohesion. This is a shot here of each of these little webs represents one of the musicians.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to see Nick's is so different because he hasn't played with the band for 6 years.
That was definitely the thing that...
That's interesting.
His ratings were lower. Some people were saying that they were experiencing the distortion of the sense of time, while other people were not. But you wouldn't be able to get that if you just averaged all the questions. Now what I've done is I've averaged out the scores on all the questions on the survey for each trial and each participant. Steve's average responses were higher than most everyone else. I think, you're kind of in the middle there, and Nick is the lowest. And then the other interesting part of this depiction here is that the certain songs were clearly, everyone loved them.
The first controlled experiment was complete. The next step was to throw in the variable of a live audience to see if there was a quantitative difference in the frequency of the group flow state. You're going to hook the whole band up, and like we did at the rehearsal the other night, but why is that a special condition, if you will?
Yeah, so the rehearsal that we did on Tuesday was really special because I was able to ask each musician after each song how they felt playing that song. And what those surveys will give me an idea of was the extent to which each musician felt as though they were in a flow state. How well they feel they performed, how in tune with their band members they felt, how cohesive they feel the interaction was between them. And so I have a measure of that for each musician throughout each trial. And then what I can do is take the brain data and the motion data on each trial and compare it across trials. For the ones in which musicians reported high levels of flow versus the ones in which they reported low levels of flow. I can't give you surveys in between each song for the live show, but what I can do is take all the data from the live show and compare it to the rehearsal.
Right.
And so this gets at a different research question, which is, what is the effect of the audience? Right? Do the musicians play differently, feel differently, move differently when there is an audience?
There's a lot more at stake as we share our songs in front of an audience, many of whom haven't experienced us live before, or at least not for a very long time. Our nerves were firing with equal measure of excitement to play live again, with the fear of messing up in front of a crowd of friends.
We're all here, presumably because we've found something inspiring about the live music experience. We love it. There's something that happens, and a lot of what I do in my lab is try to investigate that. Why do we like it so much? So it turns out that we often say music is universal, and by that we mean that music is universally practiced by humans across the world and throughout history. There's no human society that doesn't have some sort of a musical tradition. And why is that? Well, when we find something that is with us, we have to ask what was adaptive about it. And if you look at evolutionary theory, you can find a few different things that can explain why we have music. So one of those things could be that the tribal societies in which we evolved were helped by a sense of group cohesion. When we all feel connected to each other, the tribe can survive. Thank you guys. Thank you, Lucas.
Bills, they're going in our dreams. But when we figure it out, we're halfway underneath.
The show kicked off really well for not playing together in a long time. I felt like we picked up exactly where we left off without missing a beat. We played a bunch of our original songs along with a few covers that encouraged the whole audience to sing along with us. The energy of the crowd was great as they reacted to our music, creating a positive feedback loop. I realized that for such a high-risk and vulnerable activity, I felt secure with my bandmates and validated by the crowd.
Cause I'm just waiting for something to happen.
When the show ended, it was time for us to do Lucas's surveys again.
Just waiting for the
You had some great moments in your day.
I had some
I'm not
very
sure if you
low
saw that,
potentials.
but there was some. Whenever you close your eyes, you can see those alpha waves come in, and I was I was checking you out.
I have a weird thing going on where I don't like performing, and so I get really nervous playing, and so I just close my eyes, and then I just hang out with Greg in the back, and that sort of works out. So.
I keep checking in on you. You're like, oh, Steve's doing good. Eyes are shut. He's in the groove.
Time for the paperwork.
That was so awesome.
Awesome.
That was like
Awesome.
I was blown away the whole time. I was like, I can't believe this is happening.
It felt so much better than at the bar.
Absolutely.
Like that was because you never lose the momentum.
What were your just first impressions of the show compared to other shows or compared to the rehearsal?
It was a really fun show. Felt good on stage.
What were some of the factors? Like what do you think?
Probably just not stopping is one thing. Tonight kind of felt more like our natural environment, like we could actually hear each other a lot better, and just had a lot of confidence that it sounded good too.
I think because when you're jamming or practicing, you've got an out at any given time.
Yeah.
So like if you mess up, you start the song all over again. But when you're playing live, it's live, you know. So it's almost like you make a commitment on the inside to just go for it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's you don't get that in rehearsal.
Yeah.
You know.
And then something about playing live where you just kind of surrender, like, you know, no matter what happens, this is it. We're not going to run it a second time, so you just kind of have to go with the flow. And
When we play live in front of folks, stakes are higher. We don't want to mess up.
You have kind of two elements. One is the challenge skill balance. So you're doing something challenging that you have skill in. And then two is letting go. So you need to be able to turn off your decision making processes. You need to be in this narrow zone where you've built up a skill in something that you're very well practiced at. So, but it's not too easy.
Yeah.
Can't be too easy, can't be too hard. So it's a challenge skill balance. And once you've found that, you have the ability to kind of get into a flow state. Perhaps the most interesting thing that came out of all of the data was this element of cohesion. And that is really what's interesting to me about the musical context. So I'm trying to make this delineation between when we experience flow as individuals and when we experience flow in a group. And I think there are commonalities, there's overlap between the two, but ultimately I think my theory is that it's a different experience because you feel connected to people. And that's, I think, one of the components that we love so much about live music. The next step for the analysis is to look at that objectively in the motion data in particular. Here we have a very simple bar graph of the average magnitude of the acceleration vector for each of the headsets across all of the trials. For every participant, there was a higher average during the live show.
I remember the very beginning of the song, and then I remember finishing the song, and I feel like it was almost like a blackout in between, which I feel like is a good sign. I got lost. I wasn't hyper focused on trying to find like the right chord or the right note. I fully kind of let myself go at certain parts, which I wasn't fully expecting to happen for me tonight, especially, you know, underprepared, just trying to keep up.
I suppose in just a couple sentences, what's interesting for you that came out of all of this?
Getting together with others, focusing on something creative, and trying to make something meaningful together is just a wonderful way to devote your attention in your daily life.
This experiment was quite profound for me. It was incredible to experience group flow again, along with the guys that I trust most in the world. What I learned was that group flow can happen when people with a certain amount of skill perform an activity with a heightened level of risk. But to get into group flow, there needs to be trust in yourself and trust with the people that you're creating with. I also learned that there's huge power in a supportive community when a person is trying to get into flow in order to deliver on a creative promise. Well, thank you for studying me.
Well, thank you for being willing to be studied.
Music has been a big part of my life since I was a child, but I let it slip away. In doing so, I unknowingly contributed to my own creative and spiritual stagnation. This experiment reminded me that I need to actively invest in my creative practices. Reuniting with my band Fox Farm and rediscovering group flow has reinforced something vital. Creativity thrives in community, making something from nothing, finding flow in the process. That is where the magic is.